Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So this was not part of the Raid lore series that I intended to cover, and it certainly wasn't meant to be today's video. I was going to do a video on the final boss of the Raid, and perhaps the first boss, and some interesting lore that is available for both of them. However, today we're going to be doing a video on another topic, and it's something that came up very recently, and I wanted to cover it right away, so here we go. Keep in mind, as per usual with these Raid videos, it does go into Raid spoilers as expected, but that should hardly be surprising considering the subject matter. If you've completed the first boss of Vow of the Disciple, you might have come across this after the encounter. This wall, it seems pretty innocuous at first, but much like many things in the Vow of the Disciple raid, it could change everything. But before we can really talk about the wall, we need to go ahead and talk about the things that go on it. That means we need to talk about the symbols of the raid. Vow of the Disciple has 26 symbols that appear throughout the many encounters that make up a vast number of mechanics. Teams can of course give their own names and callouts to help, but within the raid they actually name these within the massive room prior to the first encounter, and give them all their very specific murals and give them all a name and a designation in the map marker in the top left next to the radar. My buddy and fellow raid teammate Owllock went ahead and made a handy infographic, and it's all correct except for Big Brain. Big Brain is actually remember. The symbols in isolation can seem to tell a bit of a story through the raid. You could get something along the lines of the Savathûn, Ascendant Plane, and Light symbols appearing next to each other, and that might tell the story of the Witch Queen in a basic format. It's all purely circumstantial for the majority of instances, and I've already spoken about the moment in which the raid's final encounter seems to make a big point of making fixed symbols within the final raid area where you DPS the final boss, and as a result telling a sort of story that shows potentially the separation between the light and the traveller as well as the dark and the pyramids, pointing out that the primal forces of light and dark are not to be construed with the traveller and the pyramids, these great entities behind them. However, there is another instance in which something is being said by these symbols, and it's here that we return to our wall after the caretaker. This wall is interesting. In most instances, you'll never see more than one or two symbols actually highlighted on it, and they'll all be the same kind of symbol. Sometimes the wall will appear blank altogether. However, sometimes the symbols were actually consistent and formed together into something somewhat meaningful. Certain players in math class went ahead and started to crowdsource images of the wall to find out what it was all saying. Finally, Semi was taken, created this image which Toes went ahead and posted to their Twitter. It tells us a much more complete picture, and it's actually kind of terrifying to us. The symbols before us lay out a series of events, a plan, or perhaps a prophecy that Rolkan the Witness might be attempting to enact. If this prophecy is credible, and if it does come to pass, then we should all be terrified. The symbols and the prophecy that one can interpret from them would potentially be this. The Hive and Scorn shall love the darkness and worship the Witness. The Pyramid Fleet shall enter Earth and stop the Guardian. The Witness will commune with the Traveller and drink the light. The Witness will kill. And then the prophecy ends, with a final image that is missing. If we're to take this prophecy at face value, then we're about to begin a time of endings. We are about to witness a terrible chapter in the history of the universe where the light shall fall, and the universe may be plunged into terrible darkness. But even here in this moment where we're seemingly being told about the great horror that awaits us, there are still questions to be asked. This final slate, this last piece of the prophecy, has not been filled with the symbols displayed thus far. At very least, it wasn't discovered by any of the teams. If there is someone who knows this, go ahead and post it down below in the comments and see if you can link to an Imgur or some kind of proof, because ultimately, it'd be very important to know that kind of stuff. This will be very relevant. There are a few quirks and mechanics which can also help us to narrow down what this is by understanding what it isn't. The wall will always display every instance of each symbol it shows when one of them shows up. So, as an example, if a team gets to the wall and the Witness symbol has appeared, it will show all instances of the Witness symbol on the wall, So in other words, it will show the one in the top row, the one in the third row, and the one in the fourth row, all at once. Every single witness symbol shows up. Similarly, if something shows up for, say, the Traveler, or the Light, or Earth, or any of the other symbols, it will also show up that way. This means that at very least we can tell what the prophecy isn't implying by saying that the last line needs to be consistent with this rule, and needs to therefore not be one of the symbols that already appears on the board. This means we can immediately rule out some of the more horrifying possibilities for what the witness might kill. It would appear that it won't kill the Traveler, the Light, the Guardian, or the Earth. The symbol in question also cannot be hive, scorn, love, darkness, worship, witness, pyramid, fleet, stop, enter, commune, drink, or kill. All of this narrows down the possibilities even further, but it still leaves us with questions. It is possible that it isn't something that appears in the symbols as we've seen, in which case there is a possibility that I want everyone to contemplate. If we've seen that the witness is an entity leading the pyramid ships of the Black Fleet, then perhaps there is a similar entity within the Traveler. It's not clear then if the witness is the same as the winnower, and if this hypothetical entity within the Traveler would be the same as the Gardener, but if so, it'd make sense why the witness would seek to kill it. However, there is the simpler possibility that we're looking at something that simply doesn't appear on the wall at current, but is still within the symbols that we get during the raid. And if we are to narrow things down to this possibility, then there are several remaining symbols that the prophecy could indicate. If this hypothesis is correct, then the prophecy implicates that the witness might kill one of several things. Those things include Savathun, the Ascendant Plane, the Black Garden, the Black Heart, the center of the Black Garden, the Worm Gods, or worms generally, Grief, Gift, Remember, or, and perhaps most ominous of all, the Tower. What the prophecy's truth is, we have yet to see, and I think it would be foolish to cast assumptions on whether or not this will all come to pass. But if it does, if even half of this prophecy is fulfilled, then I think it would be fair to say that the world we once knew is going to change forever. Lightfall fast approaches, and I scarce believe that in a moment where we have been delivered this kind of prophecy, it wouldn't suddenly be fulfilled. It really does seem as though this is plotting out the actions that are soon to come. The witness has been described as omniscient. For those of you who don't know, that word essentially means all-seeing, but it also can imply all-seeing in the sense of all-knowing. This implies a knowledge of the past, present, and future. And if this is the case, then suddenly one has to acknowledge that this might not necessarily be prophecy, because it might already be something that the witness knows is going to happen. This could, of course, also simply be a plan. This could be Rolk and the Witness stating how their glorious triumph over Earth and the Traveler would be. But something that you have to note is that these glyphs, the parts of the pyramid that show these parts to our story, have to be relatively recent. They show parts to our story that are contemporary to both the ancient history of the pyramids and the darkness, and also to our own timeline. You have to remember that before Forsaken and the wish that Uldren Sov made in front of a dying Archon, the Scorn didn't exist, and yet they have a symbol within this set of glyphs. You have to remember that Savathun's throne world was remade in the image of the light, and the old parts of it, such as the Dark City, were pushed out, and the old areas that aligned themselves with darkness were left to decay as the new lucent city in the back where Savathun's brood now stands all rose. These symbols are constant in their nature, but some of them are also very new, very contemporary, and as a result they do imply that Rolk and the Witness have been watching us, and as a result one has to wonder, is this a look into the future, or is this a look into something that they're planning to do? Either way, they have a degree of clairvoyance over everything that has occurred, both within the throne world and without. And as a result, one has to wonder, will all of this come to pass? My personal thought? I think that in a year's time, the tower won't be there anymore. I personally am of the belief that when it finally does come time for Lightfall, we will lose the city. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but either way, the prophecy doesn't look good for us. No matter what the Witness intends to kill, all 3 prior lines of the prophecy are not good. A fleet will assemble over Earth and stop the Guardian, or Guardians, depending on how you interpret things. Furthermore, the Witness will arrive at the Traveller and commune with it, and will then drink the light. And all of this, of course, accompanies the fact that the Dark Lines of the Dark Army have been formed, and are now firmly drawn in stone or sand. We see now that the Scorn of the Tangled Shore are under the thrall of the Witness, and Xivu Arath's brood of Hive are now firmly in its command as well. There is nothing stopping the Witness from controlling these forces at current, and without interacting further with Xivu Arath, there is no way for us to prevent any of this from occurring. Maybe the world of Destiny is about to change, but if it is, I think we will at very least be ready to respond. But that's all from me for now. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and of course if you have more thoughts of your own, go ahead and let me know them down in the comments section below. If you want more Destiny content, go ahead and also hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Per Audacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.